What's going on, everybody? Aiden from Birds vs. Boys here, coming to you after the Eagles throttle the Commanders, put up a 50 burger, and they are on to the Super Bowl for the rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs. What a memorable, exciting experience. What a experience full of gratitude and being grateful for a team who has culminated everything that we thought that they could be and are now one step away from getting us back to the mountaintop and back to a parade. It was incredible to watch. We'll get into all of it, what it means going forward, what we liked from that game, and there was plenty to like from what we saw from the Eagles offense and Eagles team in general during that NFC Championship. We'll get into it all. We're live on YouTube this way. We are live on TikTok this way. As the comments come in, we'll answer them all. And for the TikTok people there, we're going to do a streamathon. We're going to be live every single day from now until Super Bowl Sunday, and then recapping the Super Bowl itself, win or lose. So let's get into it all. Like I said, there was a ton to like, and it has to be starting with the offense because that was the major question mark for a lot of people. And I'll say this, a lot of people had questions. I, at no point, was worried about Jalen Hurts and his ability to throw. I think through the week, what I was more worried about was things like Cam Jurgens and his back injury and what the offensive line would look like if they had to move pieces around for a team that was able to run the ball so effectively lately. But I was not worried about Jalen Hurts throwing the football. And I think what you saw from that Eagles offense was exactly what they told you. And I think that could have gone one or two ways because for quite some time, they have been telling us they are not opening everything up. That was pretty vanilla. They said they had another level that they could tap into and lock into. And we thought that, but you don't really know until you know. And I go back, I know this is a different sport, but the Phillies have been telling us that for 3 months. They were like, once we get to the playoffs, we'll lock back in. It'll be a different moment. We'll wake up, right? And that didn't happen because in sports, it's really, really hard to just turn they always used the term flip the switch. They're like, we're going to flip the switch and we'll be fine. What we saw from the Eagles yesterday was them flipping the switch. It was gears to the offense that we had not seen yet. And it was really exciting to get that on tape and finally see the full product of this offense. And what it turned into was a 50 burger. And what you liked the most was it wasn't just turn the ball, turn around, hand the ball off to Saquon 30 times, right? Like that had been the formula for quite some time. And we talked about it going into our show that at some point, all these comments, oh, can the Eagles do this? Can the Eagles do this? Can a team show up for 4 quarters and keep up with the Eagles offensive line and not get weighed down and weared down and be able to handle Saquon Barkley for 4 quarters? And we hadn't seen that yet. But even more importantly, what we saw from the Eagles was different offensive concepts, different creativity. They flipped that switch like they told us they were going to do, and I think that's really rare. What you saw from this team yesterday that you hadn't seen previously in different games, like a vanilla game against the Packers, think about all the creativity within that offense. Early downs, instead of just turning and handing it to Saquon, a lot of action with the RPO to the tight end on early downs, throwing the football when they're stacking the box, expecting it to be Saquon time. That was really good to see. There were little pop passes mixed in there to Devontae Smith. That's a concept and a play scheme that we had not seen at all during this season. And then getting more aggressive anytime they had a shot one-on-one to A.J. Brown, they took it. The key to that game was that 4th and 5, the deep shot that they took to A.J. when they got the one-on-one coverage. It's a 31-yard gain over to the top. At that point, it's still a 14-12 game. It's relatively close, but they keep the ball moving. And then on the touchdown to A.J. Brown as well, they had 3 receivers to the one side. They had one-on-one coverage to the opposite side. They take that one-on-one coverage for A.J. Brown, and it's a touchdown. So it's aggressiveness in your play calling and trusting that you just have more guys. And Ross Tucker talked about this on his podcast this past week. There were about 4 people on the Commanders that would start on the Eagles. It just so happened one of them was probably Jaden Daniels, and they might be able to overcome everything because of him. But at the same time, the Eagles just had more guys, right? And what we were saying is we got to make sure that all of those guys are involved because when you take talent on talent, the Eagles are always going to come out on top with anybody in the NFC. And we saw that yesterday. They got it to their skill position players and mixed it around. I thought Dallas got it. That was one of the best games I've seen from him as an Eagle. That was phenomenal. And again, back to the A.J. Brown thing, being able to get aggressive with him and take those one-on-one things. When the Commanders beat the Eagles a month ago and Jalen Hurts went out of the game, this is what Eagles fans were telling Commanders fans leading up to this game. And since that loss, as they were saying, like, yeah, you guys beat us, but look at the formula in that game. The Commanders had 8 or 9 in the box because they weren't afraid of the quarterback being able to run the ball, and they were especially not afraid of the quarterback throwing it over the top of them. So they stacked up on Saquon. And when you didn't have that ability to stack up on Saquon, how would things go? And you saw that yesterday with a healthy Jalen Hurts against them, what was possible. I thought it was one of the best Jalen Hurts game that I've seen. And again, for all the talk of it with leading up to this game was Jaden Daniels is this golden boy, and he is very, very good. We'll get into the defense for the Eagles and how they handled Jaden Daniels and everything like that. But a lot of that was, it felt like every narrative for this game was the Commanders will beat the Eagles because Jaden Daniels is flat out better than Jalen Hurts. And back to what I said at the beginning, I had no worry about Jalen Hurts for some reason, because with Jalen, I feel like he constantly rises to the moment. I really felt like even if we lost yesterday, we were going to get a locked-in Jalen Hurts in that performance, and we really, really did. He was crisp in throwing the football. I thought he was in total command of that game throughout the entire thing, whether it was checks at the line, like I said, or just being able to read the defenses. He got blitzed a ton, and they still were able to get out of those situations, and it wasn't just creativity with his legs. I think there were a few different design runs, but aside from that, it wasn't a lot of, elongating plays by him running around. There were a few instances of that, like the Devontae Smith pass interference in the end zone. But aside from that, there were just a few designed runs, and a lot of the damage was done with his arm. And that's what you like to see. That's what we knew he was capable of. And I'm really, really glad that he proved that to everybody yesterday. And what was just a massive win for the Eagles offensive coaching staff and for Jalen Hurts, who have been doubted more than really like any good team, really. Let's see what else we got. Hurts most underrated QB in the league. I agree. Like I said this last week, I was like, they talk about Jalen Hurts like he's fucking radio throwing the football. And it's insane for somebody who has the resume that he has, going back to his second Super Bowl now. And I do think the part of it was, right, like that NFC Championship, Brock Purdy gets knocked out of the game. And I felt this about the Commanders game yesterday. This was the most satisfying NFC Championship to me. Like the NFC Championship in 2017 was awesome. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever been a part of as a fan. The pick six was one of the coolest moments in Philadelphia Eagles history. And it just felt like anybody could have gotten it that night, like Chris Long had said. And that was really cool, but that was like a lightning in the bottle type of moment, right? And then you go on to 2022, the 49ers, two quarterbacks are out of the game. So you're just pretty much like, all right, we're going to just manhandle these guys and we'll be all right. So this game yesterday was the most satisfying because you got the strongest opponent, at least offensively, that we've played in an NFC Championship in these past 7 years. You rose to the occasion and absolutely annihilated them through your offensive schemes that have been doubted pretty much since the beginning of the season because this team started 2-2. And going back to that, them starting 2-2, there was a lot of doubt in this team. But what we really felt like, if you were a hardcore fan or a hardcore analysis guy, is like, if they just got themselves healthy and got themselves right coming out of that week 5 bye week, that they would be in really good shape. They had a month in October where they were really not playing anybody who was that strong. There was a lot of teams with losing records. And we're saying, all right, I think this is the month that the Eagles proved who they are. They lost one time since that point. And it was that Commanders game when Hurts was knocked out of the game. Nakobe Dean, Josh Sweat, and Jordan Davis all missed time during that game, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was ejected from that game. It took them being down 5 starters at different times within that game for the Commanders to win in the last second. And then when you get a locked-in at-home team, Dallas Goedert also didn't play in that game. When you have all those guys back and you're at full strength and you're locked in, you saw what they are capable of. And I'm really, really glad for these guys to show what they are capable of, because again, it's been in a lot of doubt this year, and a lot of it I feel like has been unnecessary, and it's just been a lightning bolt for controversy on national talk shows. Whereas if you're watching them on a week-to-week basis, you're saying, yeah, I think there's some things that improve. I wish they'd get more creative, but this was a really damn good football team, and they were able to show it throughout this playoff run, whether it's in the snow, beating the Rams, whether it was just kind of just like overpowering the Packers is how it felt like. Like they didn't get too crazy in any of the schemes that they did. There was a fake tush-push throw during that game, but aside from that, they were like, we know we can manhandle you. We're going to, and we're going to move on to the next round. And then it culminated yesterday to get to this Super Bowl with one of the most, I thought it was an offensive masterpiece. I thought this and the Bengals game were the two best offensive showings of the season for this team, where they lined up and they were able to do everything capable that they wanted to. And their quarterback, who has been much maligned and talked down upon, and he's not as good as Jane Daniels, and is he the weak link for this team? He put on one of his best performances probably since this last Super Bowl against the Colts. I thought he was amazing, and he did great work. Now, so a few more offensive notes before we move on to the defense and kind of capture that. Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens. I'll say this. We talk about this comment a lot with the Eagles, is they are physically tough and they are off the bus big. I remember Peter Schrager saying that before the first Rams game. The Eagles are off the bus big. And if you ever played high school sports, you know what that means. It means sometimes you show up to the game, the team from one town over shows up, and everyone's just bigger than you are. Whether it's football, basketball, you're like, well, today is not our day. They're just size. They're just bigger than we are. It doesn't matter. We're going to lose. That's how it feels when you play the Eagles. So they've always been physically able to kind of dominate at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage this year, which has led to a phenomenal Saquon year. But yesterday, that was really much more in question, because going into this game, Cam Jurgens has the back issue. So, all right, now you need to shift Landon Dickerson over to center and start Tyler Steen. And he hasn't played a ton this year, even though in the times that he did look pretty good. So you're playing with a new center, and your center, who is really, really good, is now out, and he's being used in emergencies only. Well, then the emergency only happens when Landon Dickerson hurts his knee. He's limping all over the field. So I give so much credit to those guys for not just the physical toughness, but the mental toughness as well, because that's something that, like, I can't imagine having to gut that out on one leg, and imagine like a back injury as an offensive lineman, not to mention for Cam Jurgens specifically, the pressure that he is under to replace probably a guy who's on the Mount Rushmore of Eagles players in Jason Kelce. So you were under immense pressure, as it has been the entire season. He's met that and gone above and beyond in his results. Culminated yesterday with his performance in the second half to bail them out after Landon Dickerson also got hurt, and he was on one leg, and he was gutting it out for this team, so that Cam Jurgens, who was trying to gut it out with a back injury, didn't have to come into this game. That is amazing work by those guys. It's what it takes to be a Super Bowl champion. It's what it takes to get to this moment, the physical and mental toughness from those guys. I want to shout them out, because the offensive line does get a lot of credit. Jeff Stoutland does get a lot of credit. It is all deserved, but I thought that was different yesterday. And seeing the emotion from Cam Jurgens after that game, where he's on the verge of tears and he's getting choked up, talking about what it took to play in this game. I cannot imagine that, both physically and mentally, the pressure and the pain that took, and they delivered. And for that to happen, where two of your guys injured the way they are, and what do you get? A 7 rushing touchdown performance. You cannot give enough kudos in the world to that offensive line, and those two specifically gutting it out. Hopefully they are both good for the Super Bowl, but they definitely need to get their kudos here. Nate chimed in on YouTube. He says, congrats on the Eagles win, even though I hate them and the Chiefs-Bills fan. Listen, I think there's a lot of that in the NFC East right now, beating the Commanders, Saquon Barkley being a former Giant, and everything that's going on with the Cowboys. I think there's a lot of people saying to themselves that they do hate the Eagles, but listen, it's just a well put together team, so I appreciate it. And let's see what we can do here against the Chiefs. It'll be a great game. I'm really excited for it. So we'll take the congratulations. So listen, I've been on the opposite side of this many times, where it's a team that I hate, and they're going on and they're beating my team, and they're on to the Super Bowl and NBA Finals, World Series, whatever it may be. That has happened to me many times. It feels good to be on the opposite side of that. And then the last offensive note is the offensive note that I've noted every week for 20 weeks. Saquon Barkley is a Philadelphia Eagle. I'll be walking down the street, making lunch, taking a shower, and I'll be like, holy shit, like Saquon Barkley is an Eagle. Somebody who has 100% approval rating in the league. Everybody loves this guy. It is still a miracle in itself that he is on the team. Now, not only does he get on the team, it's trending after one season, even though he spent 7 in New York. When he retires, he's going to retire an Eagle. And that play to start the game meant so much, because it is going to be up there with the Patrick Robinson pick 6. Especially, everybody will remember the run, but remember what led up to that in years to come. The Commanders put together a 17-play drive. They put points on the board. It kind of took the crowd out of it because they converted on multiple third downs. They converted on multiple fourth downs. Not really sure why they didn't go for it on the next fourth down and kick the field goal. But anyways, then one play, Saquon to the house. It's just like every time you watch him, it's a small miracle that he's even on this team. And still, like I mentioned with Cam Jurgens, who had immense pressure, Saquon did too. And he has met and exceeded every expectation. That place was rocking. Anybody who's there, that's a once-in-a-lifetime moment. And the clip of Jordan Mailata, who was blocking on that play and he was mic'd up for it, him maniacally laughing when he realizes that Saquon was going to turn this from a 15-yard gain to a touchdown is very, very relatable, because I've caught myself doing that in multiple instances this year, because you just can't believe it. It feels like you're watching a guy play a video game on easy rookie junior varsity mode, but it's Saquon playing in one of the biggest stages in the National Football League. He is amazing. I cannot believe that he's an Eagle. And they didn't even really that wasn't even the craziest Saquon game we've seen from the season. It looked like the calf was tightening up a little bit on him. He only had at one point after half, he only had 9 rushes. Now he had 85 yards. But they didn't really get him 30 touches. They were able to utilize other guys, and he still had a 3 touchdown performance. He was still remarkable. He still delivered that home run punch. That is the equivalent to Kyle Schwarber coming up and hitting a second upper deck bomb to start the game in the NLCS, and then you go on to win. That's what Saquon Barkley did, and I think it eased everybody's nerves after that first drive, and that place was rocking, and they were off and running from there. It set the tone for that offense. They're like, you can do all this, you can try as you might, but we have Saquon. It reminds me of in the Avengers, they have all this, we have a Hulk. That's how it felt watching that Saquon run. Is there was clearly a lot of effort put into those scripted plays from the offense of the Commanders, and a clear game plan to keep the ball away from the Eagles offense, move the ball methodically, run a hurry up, keep the Eagles offense off the field, but at the same time, keep the Eagles defense gassed. And within one play, that is ruined by Saquon Barkley and his ability. So I've said it from week 1 when he caught the wheel route touchdown against the Packers, and I will say it now. I cannot believe that Saquon Barkley is an Eagle. And one more to go. I don't think there's anybody more deserving of a Super Bowl right now as a star in the NFL than Saquon Barkley. Please beat the Chiefs for us. We are absolutely going to try. We need to. I feel like it's funny because I know a lot of people aren't huge on the Eagles, right? And Eagles fans. I understand that. But it's so funny to see this is now Nick Sirianni and the Eagles are the last hope for us to stop the greatest dynasty now in a three-peat for the Chiefs. So I think there'll be a lot of people rooting for the Eagles this week, which is crazy. Bills draft Travis Hunter. Did Tom Brady come out of retirement for the quarterback to get shut down? Corners, trade Tyreek Hill. Let's get a defensive coordinator. That's a lot of steps that have to happen, but I believe that it could happen for you guys. On to the defense. I appreciate the gift, by the way. Looking over on TikTok here for a second. Elizabeth, thank you for the follow. Thank you so much. Over to the defense, because I thought this was a key. I would vote the Eagles, but I don't really like Nick Sirianni. That's what I think is so funny about this, is now everyone who most people don't like Eagles fans, they aren't a fan of Nick Sirianni, and I totally understand those things. But it is so funny that we are now the last hope, and Sirianni's last hope from the Chiefs winning. Don't like either teams, but Eagles winning their offensive line and D-line are nasty. I do think all year this has been the most important thing for the Eagles. It reminds me of the situation in 2022 a little bit, where it felt like the Eagles were better than the Chiefs at a lot of positions, but you got to be leery. You can't be overly confident because they have a Patrick Mahomes. It's just that simple. It's it feels at times like it doesn't matter who's on the field because they just have Mahomes. And I do really believe, like you said, it's such a key that the Eagles can win up front. And we talk about this on our show all the time, but maturity, skill position players are nice. Maturity is realizing it takes the infrastructure. It takes a line that can pulverize people, and it can take a defensive line group that can stop the run and get after the quarterback. Bet 1K. Listen, if you got 1K, we'll talk. DM us. We'll set up a bet. We'll see what we can do. Over to the defense for the Eagles and what they did well. What the Commanders did on that first drive that I just mentioned was exactly what I thought that they were going to do, is hurry up offense, getting the ball out of Jaden Daniels' hands quickly. It's the only time someone has had success against the Eagles this year was the Bucs. The Tampa Bay Bucs did it in week 4. Eagles did have some injuries, but At that time, I think Baker Mayfield was like 10 for 11 on his first 2 drives to start that game. They were getting the ball out quickly. They were moving quickly with no incompletions. They were able to run a hurry up offense and gas this defense. That was clearly the plan for the Commanders. They knew they were lacking the firepower in terms of talent to keep up. So they were trying to gas those guys so that they could not rush the quarterback the same way, so that they could, it would hopefully lead to less turnover worthy plays and keep the Eagles offense off of the field. I thought that would be the game plan, and it was. And for a while, it did work. But as usual, what the Eagles do so well is they punch the ball out, which flips the field. And then once the offense gets going, and especially yesterday, like it just really took the Commanders out of their rhythm. But I did expect that strategy from the Commanders. We got it, and I thought that for the most part, the Eagles handled it well. There were times, I'll tell you what, I felt like I was watching Oklahoma play Oklahoma State 3:30 on ABC. It really felt like a Big 12 game where the Commanders were just getting to the line, shotgun, and just making sure that they got the ball out quick and firing it. So that was the expected plan, and it was what they were doing. And I was having Big 12 flashbacks watching that game. I'll tell you what. Eagles will take a hard L in the chip. Bank it. Jalen will be exposed. I heard the same rhetoric this week that he was going to be exposed, and then we had 55 points on the board. So I don't know what to tell you. You're so well spoken. Thank you. I appreciate that. We got a podcast every single week, and we'll be streaming every day from now until the Super Bowl. As for the defense, once again, the turnover worthy plays. It doesn't become it's not really a luck thing because of how often they are punching the ball out, how heady they are and getting on the ball. It is clear that they practice a ton in terms of stripping the ball, punching the ball out, getting the ball when it gets to the ground. It's like coachable things that you notice that it's like, it's not just one, it is hustle, it is hard work, but it also, there is a point of emphasis to rip the ball out of defenders and receivers to make that punch, gang tackle, get to the ball, and then make sure you make that turnover. Zach Bond is so good at it. Again, what a steal to have him. Reed Blankenship is very good at it. Jalen Carter, who is a menace to society, is always throwing punches. Sometimes we have to be careful that he is punching the ball and not people, but still, he was phenomenal again yesterday. Big Jules, I appreciate the roses on that. And then one last time, I think we can officially call it the Georgia boys. It worked. The strategy worked. This was it, right? Like, this was finally the game where, like, okay, yeah, just drafting everybody from Georgia was the move. Like, I thought that this strategy, I was begging for it at the time. I felt like it was just common sense to take kids from the best collegiate defense of all time who won the championship there to then come to the Eagles and just bet on them being the same or close to it. The best players in high school who were the best players in college, who were then the best players on the best team in college. I just figured, hey, maybe that'll translate to the NFL. I think we can officially call it. It was probably one of the best Jordan Davis games that we've seen. Nolan Smith added another sack. He's now got 4.5. He's got 1 in every playoff game so far this season. He has really come into his own since the Brandon Graham injury as that edge rusher that we hoped he could be. And then lastly is Jalen Carter, who you heard it. Don't even hear it from me. Hear it from Aaron Donald, a surefire Hall of Famer, who said this week he thinks Jalen Carter is the heir apparent to him. So don't even take it from me, simple podcaster. Take it from Aaron Donald, surefire Hall of Famer, who says he thinks that Jalen Carter is the next up-and-coming guy there. So I thought he was great again, by the way. And just ripped like every game, it feels like he gets his hands on stripped and a turnover. And how about even a Jordan Davis sack? It was great. It was great to see. But the Georgia boys, I think we can call it. I think we can settle it. That strategy worked. It worked. Now you have a great infrastructure up in that front. And even Nakobe Dean, before he got hurt, I honestly feel really bad that he's hurt because he was great too. Chiefs going for the big three-peat. Yes, they are, but we're going to try and stop them. Freight Train, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let's see. We'll get a few more comments here before we get out of here. May the best team win. I think so. I think it'll be a great game. I think people are a little Chiefs fatigued and now starting to get a little Eagles fatigued. I can't help it, though. I'm very grateful that the Eagles are starting to become a position of excellence where we're expecting playoffs, we're expecting division titles. We are happy and grateful with NFC championships, but want to win that Super Bowl. I think they're in a great spot foundationally as a franchise, which you love to see. As a 49ers fan, the key to the success for the Eagles, Vic Fangio, great former DC for my Niners. I think that's a great point by Jay right there. Vic Fangio has done wonders with this defense from last year to this year. He's had success against the Chiefs and against Mahomes. I think that'll be a big storyline going into this game. I think there's only so much you can do against the Patrick Mahomes, but still, I think I'm so over the moon with what he's done with this defense. And really since week 4 on, like I said, I thought that bye week, I hate having early bye weeks, but it was pivotal this year to get Cooper DeJean into the lineup as that nickel corner, really changed that defense. Getting everybody healthy on that side was really important as well. And like Quinyon Mitchell coming into his own, Darius Slay having another great year. The secondary with Fangio has been night and day compared to last year. I think that is the position group that has changed the most since that happened. And since that kind of collapsed last year. All right. And then we got a few everyday. We got some questions and comments there on YouTube as well. Everyday streams. Let's go. Yep. Everyday streams now, day 1 until the Super Bowl and then beyond, because we'll be talking to everything that happens in the Super Bowl as well. RD is better than Kansas City's defense. I do think Kansas City, Steve Spagnuolo, another great defensive coordinator. It is going to be crazy because you're probably seeing not only the 2 best defenses, but the 2 best defensive minds, right? And now they're tasked with stopping 2 incredible players, 1 Saquon Barkley and 2 obviously is Mahomes. So that chess match on defense is going to be really interesting to see. And I'm excited for that matchup. And I think what the Chiefs' plan is going to be is what the plan has been for a lot of teams, and is going to be heavily blitz Jalen Hurts. He was really good against it yesterday, but that does seem to happen a lot. Delco Eagles fans are the best Eagles fans. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? So yeah, I think that'll be a great matchup. I'm really excited for it. We'll talk about all that this week, but that's a great first stream to start with. What a recap. I am so grateful for this Eagles team to see the culmination of all their hard work end up in a Super Bowl appearance here. And let's finish the job. Let's finish the job. Every week I say this, you can't be Super Bowl or bust, because that makes you not appreciate the journey, and it makes you skip steps. This team has not skipped any steps. They have met every question. They have passed every test. They have 1 more to go. I'm grateful for the journey that they have brought us on. It's some of the most fun I've had watching Eagles football, and I hope that continues 1 more time. But for now, we get a little bit of time. We've got 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. So for the next 48 hours, enjoy the fact that in an NFC championship, they just put up 55 points. What a game. What a moment. What a team. We'll be back tomorrow with another stream. I appreciate everybody who tuned in, everybody who commented, everybody who questioned. Thank you. If I didn't get to you, feel free to always DM us, follow us, and we will see you tomorrow for the next one. Appreciate it, guys.